Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the next edition of the Junction City News. I am Regina Mahoney, the City Manager for Essex Junction, and I have with me Chris Ewan, who is our Community Development Director at Essex Junction. Thanks for joining, Chris.
Thanks, Regina. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So we are here talking about the Connect the Junction project because there was a pretty big monumental step in this effort. So it's great to have this opportunity to talk about this. So before we really get into it, can you tell us a little bit about what Connect the Junction is and why we started doing this project?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. And because at its core, Connect the Junction is a transit-oriented development plan, and that's TOD for short. And it's all about planning for growth around public transit and making sure more people can live where walking, biking, and public transit are safe and convenient options as the city grows. And we're thinking of this this way because when we're talking about new housing, new jobs, new services, if they're located around transit and connected by good sidewalks and paths, it helps the whole area work better overall, whether you're walking, biking, taking transit, or even driving.
Awesome. And just to put a little bit of a finer point on that, part of this effort is assuming we will see more housing growth, and we do need to see more housing growth. So that is exciting. And if that housing growth wasn't put in a place where we are served by bus and transit, they only will go elsewhere and need to drive, and you'll still have more car traffic on our roads, and especially coming through Five Corners. So, okay. So, where specifically in Essex Junction is this project located?
Well, this plan focuses on the city center and the Pearl Street corridor. And we focus on this area because the Pearl Street corridor is where Green Mountain Transit's number 2 bus runs, with service to Winooski and Burlington every 20 minutes throughout the day.
Awesome. And I just want to add another note that we just heard from Clayton Clark, who is the general manager of GMT, that the Route 2 bus is really a bus line that has folks using it basically the whole stretch of the way. So it really is a very heavily used bus line, and one that will probably be able to sustain itself as is, and it'd be excellent to see it essentially be able to run even more frequently if we get more users on it. So that's exciting. Okay, so this project has been in the works for quite some time. Can you remind us of some of the work done to date?
Sure thing. This plan has been almost 2 years in the making. So back in fall 2024, the city and our partners hosted a multi-day community design activity as a part of an earlier phase of this project. And over the course of a long weekend, we had residents, business owners, students, families, and community leaders who came out and took part in site tours, workshops, live polling, and hands-on mapping activities focused on the Five Corners and the Pearl Street corridor. And throughout this event, what we heard was helped set the foundation for this plan. And the people at this event talked a lot about wanting more housing options, vibrant public spaces, and thriving local businesses, while building upon the character and history of Essex Junction. We also heard there was a strong interest in better walking, biking, and transit connections, safer street crossings, and development that feels welcoming and usable for everyday life, not just for driving through.
Okay, great. Okay, so then more recently, this past summer, after the draft plan was developed, there was another round of engagement?
Yeah, that's right. Throughout this last summer, we engaged the community even more. We tried to dig deeper and reached people who hadn't participated earlier. We met residents where they already were at community events, pop-ups, meetings and throughout surveys to get feedback on the concepts of growth, transportation, housing, and public spaces. So again, we heard a wide range of opinions. Some residents focused more on housing needs and economic vitality, while others concentrated on the ideas of scale, neighborhood character, and managing traffic. But across both phases, some consistent themes emerged. People want growth to be thoughtful and well designed. They want housing to be close to services and transit, streets that feel safer and are more comfortable for everyone. And they want developments that supports local businesses and creates places where people actually want to spend time. So the Planning Commission and the City Council reviewed all of this feedback and used it to refine the final recommendations in this plan. And they ended up adopting this plan last Wednesday.
Awesome. Okay. So, in the plan that the City Council just adopted on Wednesday, one of the biggest topics was building height. How does that connect to the city's housing goals?
Well, like our peer municipalities in Chittenden County, Essex Junction is tackling an immense housing shortage. And there's simply not enough homes to rent or buy, and that limits people's choice, and it drives up prices. We also know right now people that our community relies on, like teachers, like childcare workers, like young professionals, they can't find homes that they can afford near the places where they serve. So this plan really is deeply focused on how the city can grow and meet our housing needs. Chittenden County as a whole is expected to add about 32,000 new homes by 2050. Essex Junction specifically is expected to add a little over 3,000 new homes within the next 25 years. But as our local residents know, Essex Junction is pretty small and it was pretty built out. So to add homes without sacrificing our remaining green space, we really have to think about building upwards.
Okay. Great. Okay, so in thinking that and how to try to accommodate those targets, what building height scenarios did the project consider and what were the findings?
Sure, so the project team looked through three main scenarios. What we call alternative 0 on the screen that we'll put up here is the existing regulations, allowing 4 stories and 1 bonus story for affordable housing developments. Alternative 1 that we have here has a height limit of 7 stories plus 1 affordable story bonus. And alternative 2 is the highest of the growth scenarios would allow for 9 stories plus 1-story bonus for affordable housing developments. Okay. Now, just because we set limits at these heights, it doesn't mean that every building that is built will get there. It really depends on market conditions, depends on the size of sites and the layouts and everything. Mm-hmm. But these are the 3 scenarios that we looked at, and we found that we could plausibly accommodate about 2/3 of the city's housing targets within the study area, but only if we substantially lift the height limits within this area. And we're talking about 9 stories or 10 stories with the height bonus.
Okay. And part of this, one thing I'm just going to point out for folks, at the top of this slide here, it says TOD plus VC, so that's transit-oriented development zone. That is roughly the Pearl Street corridor, and then VC is Village Center. That's really more the Five Corners zoning area. So the estimated capacity of those 2 places is broken down there, and this is roughly about 80 units per year is what we're thinking. And just so folks know how many units are built typically in Essex Junction from one year to the next, that kind of varies. A recent year in our past we saw closer to 40, another year we saw closer to 160. It really sort of depends on what projects are kind of coming through at the time. Okay, awesome. So affordable housing has also played a big role in these discussions. How does that fit into the recommendations?
Well, the Planning Commission and the City Council considered a range of policy tools, but in the end they landed on continuing to align with the state's existing affordability bonus, and that's a policy that allows for one additional story for housing developments that meets affordability standards. But they also suggested exploring a complementary incentive to encourage more homes with 2 or more bedrooms. This is to allow for larger household sizes, so new developments better meets the needs of families and these larger households.
Okay. Okay. So, and these specifically, some of those policy choices that they were kind of grappling with there. One method is a required method, and these methods that they landed on are more of incentive-based methods. Can you speak a little bit more to why?
Yeah, so the focus was on tools that support housing production while remaining feasible in today's development environments. And the mandatory approaches, they have they are created and they exist in some municipalities to require the creation of more below market rates housing options. But in order for developers to be able to feasibly produce them, they actually need to they need the market rate units to be even more affordable. And we know that across Chittenden County right now with the cost of capital, cost of borrowing, the cost of construction, we just aren't building enough. And the focus right now is on producing and on making sure it is possible and feasible just to create more homes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And I assume this is a conversation that the community will probably continue to have into the future. There are really many, many tools that the community can look at to try and help figure out the right balance on housing. This is really focused on zoning, and it is one tool of many to try to help solve this problem. I think we will continue to look at the full toolbox as we move forward. Okay, so let's talk specifics. What height limits did we land on Wednesday?
So for the Pearl Street corridor, that we're talking about Pearl Street between Susie Wilson Road and around where Post Office Square is. That's the last major shopping center. The recommendation and what was approved was 9 stories by rights, with the potential for 1 additional story if the project meets the affordability requirements. But in the city center, the approach was more fine-tuned to the character and the style of existing development. So the approach here was to set a different height limit for each quadrant of this of the city center. So where the Brownell block is, so between Maple Street and Main Street. Sorry, that's not the Brownell block. That is where the Firebird Cafe is. The recommended height limit is 7 stories plus the 1 for affordable housing bonus. And where the Brownell block is, between Main Street and Lincoln, and continuing on to Pearl Street. So also where the library is, where the city offices are. The plan calls for keeping the existing height regulations of 4 stories, plus the 1 for affordable housing developments. And the reason for that was to make sure that new development doesn't overshadow the historic buildings and the backdrop that's the historic backdrop that people expect over there.
Yeah.
The southeast corner of the city center, where where there's larger lots that are that have been redeveloping, and we know are going to be changing soon. This plan calls for height limits of 9 stories plus 1 for affordable bonus.
Okay. All right. So the plan calls for the adoption of new form-based standards. What does that mean for residents who aren't planners?
So form-based standards are standards and zoning regulations that focus less on just heights and more on how buildings fit into the surrounding areas. So that includes thinking about transitions near lower scale neighborhoods, also breaking up larger facades so buildings don't feel as bulky, and paying attention to materials and design details. So specifically, the adopted plan calls for several considerations as a project moves into the stage of creating these form-based standards. The number one area of focus is to really think carefully about the transitions to these lower scale neighborhoods, making sure we're thinking about tools like step backs to work on alleviating the shadowing and massing impacts that the higher, the taller heights might have. And step backs means height that kind of steps down as you get closer to the edge of the property. So that's the backside, the side that where we expect to see existing neighborhoods stay the way they are. Whereas towards a street, the focus is more on building materials and changes in facade articulation and modulation. So making sure the shapes are not, it doesn't look like one direct canyon, but making sure that the buildings are broken up and just appear to be distinct pieces.
And the idea really is to create an environment along the sidewalk that feels walkable and safe, and kind of livens up the space in such a way that isn't just the same, just a big block that would feel unsafe.
That's right. We're also looking to make sure that this form-based code requires that developers look into pedestrian connections and safe ways to reach transit, and include features such as sheltered waiting areas for people waiting for the bus when possible.
Okay. Great. So, in addition to building height, which is a really big topic in the Connect the Junction project, another major topic was the actual Five Corners intersection itself. What did the Planning Commission recommend there?
Yes, so the big idea over here with the Five Corners was to really leverage the use of the Crescent Connector, the new road that links between Main Street and Park Street, to alleviate some of the pressure off of the Five Corners intersection. And the way this plan would do that is, right now, if you're driving between Main Street and Park Street, you have two choices. You can either go through the Five Corners and sit through the long lights, or you can go through, or you can take that new road and kind of go around the Five Corners. Same thing in the other direction. But a lot of people still choose to go through the Five Corners because that's what they're used to. That feels like the most direct way. But the Five Corners is congested, and there's limited capacity there. So what this plan would propose is banning that direct linkage between Main Street and Park Street, and requiring travelers to go between these two locations using the Crescent Connector.
Yeah. Okay.
But actually, I guess we should mention there was one piece of this that didn't make it into the plan that was approved, and there was an idea that links that Memorial Way, that the little connection between Main Street and Lincoln should be closed permanently, because we just don't see many people using it all the time. But it would make for a much more connected streets over there. That didn't make it into the final plan because there were concerns about the connectivity between these two streets, and also connectivity from Main Street to the library and the fire station and the city offices.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now that the council has approved these recommendations, what are the next steps?
So the Planning Commission and the project team will now start working on changes to the Land Development Code to allow for these new building heights, and create the design standards and through form-based code that's that will still need to be formally adopted and approved by both the Planning Commission and the City Council before they become law, probably sometime in 2026. But between now and then, we would expect that there will be more policy decisions to make, more specifically about how how this form-based code should work, and we will be looking for public feedback as we work through that.
Great. So, and just to reiterate the concept here, the Connect the Junction plan is a plan. That's what got approved on Wednesday night. It really is setting us down a path towards achieving that vision. But the detail really and the actual specificity, it will be laid out in the coming work, and that's what lands in the Land Development Code. So there is this whole next phase of the project really is ample room for feedback and thoughts from the community on how we really finalize this vision. Okay, so in that vein, where can the community find more information on this process?
So, yeah, for more information on this project and to read the reports that have led to where we are, take a look at connectthejunction.org. Everything is on there. There's also a sign-up link over there if you want to continue to receive more details as we move through the final stages of this project.
Awesome. Great. Anything else you would like to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is that we've had tremendous amounts of feedback throughout the project so far. We've heard from a lot of city residents, and it's really important to take these opinions into consideration, but we also, it's a complicated issue. That's I think it's nuanced, and we have a lot of opinions that pull in different directions. I think it's important that we work through the final stages of this project in a way that works for the city right now and into the future.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right, so that is all the time we have for this evening. Thanks so much, Chris, for joining me. And I do hope this is, I think, December 22nd right now, so heading into the holiday season for a lot of folks. So hope everybody has a happy holiday, and look forward to seeing you all in January for the next Junction City News.